How's it going, everybody? I'm Ryan, he's Abby, we are the Expansion Bros, and I want to say thank you to everybody watching on YouTube or listening wherever you might be listening. I invite you once again to subscribe to the channel here on YouTube at RyeSquad for the podcast in video form. And if you want to take us on the go, you can go ahead and find us anywhere you find your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your daily podcast. But we're back here with some breaking news. One of the favorites to have their coach fired actually fired their coach, and it was the New York Islanders firing Lane Lambert, and they have replaced him with Patrick Roy. Sorry, Sabres fans, I am not an insider like that. Donnie is still the head coach at the time of recording. But no, the New York Islanders have a brand new head coach. That's I didn't see that coming. The Islanders felt like an average team to me this season. I didn't really think they'd shake it up either, but apparently, you know, they're moving in a different direction. Yeah, no,
Patrick Roy, I think, is a coach who's quite divisive. People feel one way about him or the other way about him. But personally, I'm actually quite the fan. His first season with the Avalanche, Patrick Roy was quite good. I know his next couple seasons weren't so good, but I see great potential in Patrick Roy as a coach, and I don't think they really got to get to that level. And I think I remember just seeing this clip of him where he's like yelling at the other coach, and they're like smashing the boards at each other. And I don't know, so something about that passion left me wanting him to get another job. So I'm glad he's found another opportunity, and this is a really interesting time to have a new coach. You know, usually, you know, if a coach is going really bad, you either want to do it earlier in the season so that
like
you
November.
can try and turn it around, like November, December.
Hello, Oilers.
Or you want to do it near the end of the season, or if you have like kind of with the Canucks situation, right, where they did not handle the firing of Boudreau well. To be very clear, I'm not happy about that. I'm glad we got Tocchet, but there was a better way to handle that. With this case, at least, I know the Islanders coach was on the hot seat, but I don't know if Patrick Roy was the name being thrown around. I don't know if you heard something different, Rye.
Absolutely
Mr. Not the Insider.
Yeah, no. Yeah. I mean, I think even if I was an insider, Patrick Roy would be a shock to me. Like you said, he did coach for 3 seasons in Colorado. He had 130 wins, 92 losses, and 24 overtime losses in those 246 games. For those of you that wanted just a quick assessment, that's a .577 points percentage. He led him to the playoffs his first season, and the next 2 seasons weren't quite as good. They let him go though after 15-16, and they plummeted. That was awful, right? They isn't that the year they drafted Makar too? They had 48 points, finished last, and I mean they hired Bednar, who is their current coach. I mean he's won him a Stanley Cup, and he's taken them to the playoffs every year other than that. So could have just been one of those things of just a transitional year. But to your point, right? Like you do this now in the middle of a lost season, right? Nobody thinks the Islanders are going to win the Cup. Playoffs, probably not, right? So you do it now, you try and implement a system, you get literal game tape and experience to see, okay, what players that we have to make decisions on or are on the fringe looked good and which looked bad, right? Like what kind of players do we need? What kind of players do we have that fit? And how can we move forward with this new coaching style and coaching scheme? And to your point, you know, whether they handled the Bruce Boudreau firing correctly or not, I think they did it at the perfect time because they had a couple months. They went out and they revitalized their bottom 6 basically. You know, I'm looking at your bottom 6 and it's not anything close to what I remember. They got Carson Soucy, who's the PDO wizard. I was reading an article the other day and that like his team has outperformed their PDO in all but 1 season, and that was Seattle's inaugural season. So
and they were not good that year.
So yeah, they've had like crazy PDO. So I don't know. Either way, you guys went out and acquired the right players for Tocchet's system, and obviously you guys are paying dividends right now. So I think the Islanders will be one to monitor because, like I said before we hit record, that's a very interestingly and uniquely constructed roster, right? It feels still a lot like that defensive torch system. Lambert kind of did keep going with that system. We'll see what Roy decides to do, but you know, it's not a job that's flush with talent and a bunch of super mega stars, right? You got Bo Horvat, who they just traded for, and Barzal. Noah Dobson. Dobson's looking great this season. But other than that, I mean, Sorokin obviously in net.
Yeah.
So there's pieces, right? I'm not trying to say they're devoid of talent, but I mean, it's not like he's taken over the Lightning right now.
No, I totally agree. They're definitely a team that plays a certain type of way, and it'll be interesting to see because as we saw with not to shoehorn the Canucks in, right? Like, or with any team that has a coaching system, or a coaching change, sorry, each player is going to play differently in each system, right? Like we've seen Kuzmenko, have that really good scheme fit under Boudreau. Now all of a sudden, he's struggling to get ice time. He has no points, no goals, no shots, no nothing in his last 8 games. But last year he scored almost 40 goals. So it'll be interesting to see which players thrive under Waugh. I could totally see someone like Wallstrom getting a more prominent role and perhaps getting more time in the top six and getting more of those opportunities to score more goals. Kind of like how when Marty St. Louis took over the Habs, Cole Caulfield ended up seeing more opportunity and now has blossomed into the star that we now know. So it'll be interesting to see how Waugh runs things for sure. I don't know what this speaks for their season. If I were to guess, I still think they probably missed the playoffs. They'll be an okay team, but I think they'll miss the playoffs overall.
Yeah, I think you're probably right about that. They're currently 2 points out, so they made the change, hopefully trying to save their season. We'll see what happens, right? We've seen plenty of examples. I mentioned Edmonton. I guess Ottawa's the one that kind of bucks the trend of these teams get a bounce when you get a new head coach, right? You win a couple more. The players, I guess, are a little bit more focused, it's a less easy and less comfortable. That's the word I'm looking for. A less comfortable feeling walking into that locker room, knowing your boss just got fired because you were sucking. So, I mean, that makes everybody kind of step up and look in the mirror and, can wake some of these guys up. And it's one of those things. It's like something I've been asking the Sabres to do is just show a pulse, right? I've used that phrase about, I don't know, daily, once a day when I talk about the Sabres. I'm saying they just need to show a pulse. Sorry, I'm looking at my phone over here. I'm like the whole Islanders firing their coach has got me excited that anytime my phone lights up, it's gonna be the Sabres doing something and showing a pulse. So I got to stay focused where we're at though. But I know you said you didn't want to shoehorn the Canucks into every conversation, right? But right now, I mean, with the way you guys are playing this season, the Canucks are the model. That's every fan. Yeah. A lot of, I'm sure, executives are looking at like, hey, the Canucks did that. They are awesome now. They are like the best team I've ever seen. So I want to do that, right? I mean, it's a copycat league, right? If somebody figures something out, everybody else is going to all of a sudden start following suit and doing it too. So, like you said, you don't want to shoehorn them in there, but like that, I'm literally saying, look at the Canucks when I'm talking about the Sabres and Granato.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And speaking of, a good job deserves a reward. And you're talking about the Canucks being the model organization. The Canucks ownership clearly agrees. They've extended Jim Rutherford 3 years now, or for another 3 years. Sorry. Yeah, it's a big one. I think for trying to. I think with Elias Pettersson contract talks coming up, I think what they're trying to show is that management will be stable going forward. And looking at the decisions the Canucks have made, just overall, like they just haven't missed in a while. Like obviously there's like previous failures we had to take care of, like not capitalizing on the trade value of say Jack Rathbone in the past and having to send him off for just a Mark Friedman. Is a bit disappointing, but Mark Friedman's been a serviceable seventh defenseman, and for the fact that Jack Rathbone was never going to play in the NHL for us, I was very happy with that trade, even that being like a minor move. Or obviously the bigger moves of the signings and Rutherford empowering Alvin. I'm very happy with this administration, and there's every reason to be with the results they're getting. And you talk about a copycat league. I think it isn't just the Canucks who have done this. I think we've seen it with the Avalanche as well, where you have your core stars. So the Avalanche had Makar, Rantanen, Landeskog, McKinnon for an extended period of time, right? And for an extended period of time, they didn't win. You have that wonderful quote from Nathan McKinnon in that press conference he had after they lost in the playoffs the year before they won the cup, where he just said, "It's been I don't remember how many years." He said, "It's been X number of years, and I haven't won shit." Followed by that wonderful Adrian Dater quote, just fuck it, don't think anymore, and maybe you guys will win. Which was very funny. I still go back and watch that back sometimes. If you're watching it on YouTube, put it in half speed and it sounds like they're drunk, and it's even funnier to listen to.
Oh, it's amazing.
But
That's like Rob Ray's color commentary, but at full speed.
Yeah. I no comment. But my point is, they kept that core together, and then they just added more good players. You know, they added Nichushkin, they added more defensemen, they added Georgiev, right? And I think the Canucks had the same model. You know, they had Pettersson, Besser, Hughes, and then they just and Demko. And then they just kept adding to it. You know, they added JT Miller. Had to give up a first-round pick to do it, but they added JT Miller, who is an amazing scorer now, better than I think we could have even imagined. Leading the team, exactly. They added Philip Hronik, ended up being a top pairing defenseman. Quinn Hughes, perfect defensive partner, best defensive partner he's had since Chris Tanev. When that was even more like Chris Tanev wasn't a top defenseman. It's just you were putting an offensive defenseman with a defensive defenseman, so they did good things. Now you've just straight up got exactly. Now you've just got straight up two good defensemen, like an amazing defenseman and a really good defenseman. When like the top two defensemen supposed to be here, like this is unheard of. I don't think the Canucks have had top two defensemen in God knows how long. I can't think of a time we had two top two defensemen. Maybe like Jovanovski and Olin, but I don't even know if they were both at their peaks at the same time. So basically, you have your core and you add the right pieces. And the other thing, right, when you keep that core together, is they develop chemistry together. And yes, you're gonna have to sometimes break off pieces of that core. Like the Canucks had to pick between Horvat and Miller, right? And Horvat was a part of that core that we had to trade away. But that's part of the tough decisions is you have to have a core that you know has talent. And the Canucks have had talent for a long time. Yes, they're breaking out this year, but all these guys have been good. I know Besser's a special case, I think, because he had all the stuff with his dad. And I think we really don't consider the mental health of players and stuff enough when they're on slumps and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And what's going on in their lives. Besser was talented in his rookie year, and he had to go through, you know, his dad basically like dying for a couple years until he finally passed away. And now that he's finally had time to process that and to be able to, you know, not have to think about that on a daily basis. Now he can just play hockey, and you can see the results of that. He's always had the talent, and he's always worked hard. And now finally he doesn't have just this horrible thing hanging over his head, and now he can play.
Yeah, and with Rutherford too, right? I don't know the ins and outs. I haven't paid too much attention to the Canucks moves and stuff like that. I've not been like watching your transaction log under him. Obviously, the Pettersson one is going to be the one that the entire league's watching. But when you look at Rutherford and what he's done, he's you know, he got the experience in Carolina, right? When he joined, you know, with the Whalers, it became the Carolina Hurricanes. And, you know, after about 10 to 12 years there, he helped them win a Stanley Cup in 2006. He used that experience then to build around an already elite set of players in Pittsburgh and won back-to-back cups in 16-17. And now he comes into Vancouver, who already has an elite set of players, like you mentioned. And again, he just knows how to find those guys that win you cups, right? So I'd be stoked. I'm pumped, right? And if I'm a Canucks fan right now, and I guess I'm just going to be for the rest of the season a Canucks fan, because I'm not going to bother with getting my hopes up on the Sabres.
Welcome to Canucks Nation. You're a welcome addition.
All right, yes. I'm glad. Well, thank you for taking me in with open arms. I need a place to stay right now. But
always welcome here.
He's got the experience. He knows what it takes to win a cup. And I know that like that's so cliche and silly, but I think in the NHL, in most sports leagues, you know, it really does matter. Like when you've been there and you've done that and you know what structure and what the organization is supposed to look like. You need that guy that's done it, and he's can pick out those ancillary pieces, right? He's not giving 12, 13 million to everybody, right? Like bang, bang, bang. Let me get all the stars. I have stars. How can I maximize them, right? And you know, they brought in Tocchet. Rutherford was there and then let Boudreau go, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, that's a bold move. That's something that, you know, young GMs in this league might be hesitant or over eager to do. And then to identify your guy and surround him with players that fit the way he wants to play. I mean, it's perfect. And, you know, we talk about advanced analytics and PDO Bender and things like that. It's like you make those chances by playing an elite level, at a very high level in the right scheme, right? We talk about players fitting a scheme and fitting a role. Well, you play NHL, the video game, right? You're looking for a playmaker, a two-way forward, and a sniper, a power forward, playmaker, sniper, right? You got roles. Like, you need these guys to play the same way, and sometimes guys just click, right? You just find those combinations. Hronek was not this good in Detroit. I mean, not that I'm not saying he was bad.
He was pretty good.
Right. I'm not saying he was bad, but he was not this good, right? Next to Quinn Hughes. And now, sure, some of that might be the point totals and whatnot might be because he's playing next to one of the best offensive defensemen in the entire NHL in Quinn Hughes, Captain Quinn. But you went out and give a first for that guy, right? You acquired a first from the Islanders, realized the Islanders were in a playoff hunt, flipped it, and got yourself a top pairing defenseman. And having two elite defensemen, like you say, is something every team is craving, right? The Sabres. Yeah,
absolutely.
Sabres did it by having 2 first overall players. Now we'll see what Power becomes and how elite he can be. I'm very optimistic, but still, those are the moves you make. You got to know when the time to spend your assets to acquire the pieces you need. You got to know when that right time is, right? And that's something I think Rutherford, I mentioned his history, he's brought to the Canucks, and it's paying dividends. You guys are really flourishing right now, culminating in a dominating 2-1 win over the Arizona Coyotes just 2 nights prior to the recording of this.
Yeah. No, it's the Arizona Coyotes, again, are a team that I never downplay. They're a good team, I think. And, they're above Bettman 500, below the actual 500, depending on how you consider overtime losses. But they're a talented team, right? They've got 2 good goalies in Vejmelka and Connor Ingram. I think Ingram played this game, and he played fairly well. But the Canucks have Ademko, and he also played well. I think this is one of our lowest shot totals on the year for both sides in a while. Demko only had to make 20 saves, and Connor Ingram only had to make 24 himself. Notably, I should note it's Pride Night, and the man who brought Pride tape back to the NHL, Travis Dermott, big shout out. Bettman's scared of rainbows, but I'm sure I'm not, and I don't think Ryan is either.
Absolutely not.
Fuck you, Gary Bettman. There's the bird.
That was
first
awesome.
Bird of the podcast.
I loved seeing that. I followed the Canucks on Twitter and I saw the tweets. I'm like, oh, they're just embracing this. Like, I love it. Like, go for it, guys. Like, it's so stupid, right? I don't know. We won't get into that here. We'll keep it hockey focused for now. But yeah, no, the Canucks, the Coyotes. Too many C teams. The Coyotes are the I think is that the 4th youngest team, 5th youngest team.
They're pretty young.
5th youngest team in the entire NHL. And like you said, they're scrappy. They may not be elite. They may not be a playoff contender, but I think you and I talked before the season and we both had the Coyotes. Like, I think the Coyotes were supposed to be like an 80-point team. I think I wanted to take the over on that. And so far it's looking pretty good because they're playing at a 52% point pace, which is high 80s. So not high 80s. Yeah, it might be high 80s. I don't know.
Mid 80s. Yeah.
Well, because 500 would be 82 points, right? So
yes.
2% more. Yeah. So we're probably talking upper 80s anyway. Quick. Yeah. If you want to do the quick math, I'll be talking about it. But it's again shows what we've talked about before on the podcast, is the Canucks can find ways to win. However, they need to find a way to win. Are you going to put up 85 points? So, okay. Yeah. Mid 80s. But you guys find ways to win whatever the situation calls for. That's the most exciting part to me. That's why I think the Canucks can go deep, right? We talk about, this team, they're really lacking here or they're really lacking there. And it's like, you look at the Canucks and it's like, no, they're pretty good all over the place, right? The Vancouver Canucks score the most goals for per game in the NHL and allow the second fewest. Only team that allows fewer is the Winnipeg Jets because Hellebuck has just decided to be a brick wall, like a literal brick wall. Your guys' power play percentage is 10th. Your penalty kill percentage is 19th, so it could use a little work. But the power play opportunities against, you guys give up the 12th fewest, right? So it's not like you're giving away power play opportunities to the opposing team to expose your weaker penalty kill, right? So, I mean, it's one of those things, no team's going to be perfect, but if you can say that, hey, we don't take penalties, but when we do, we're not good at killing them off, I think that's a weakness I would sign up for.
That's also a weakness that's going to be less prevalent in the playoffs, right? So, and like when we're looking at weaknesses for the Canucks right now, I'm not really even thinking that much about the regular season, right? Like it'd be amazing if we could like win the conference, win the division, all this shit, right? But ultimately, what it comes down to is that we actually make the playoffs. As long as we make the playoffs, then that from there, that's what matters. And I think the Canucks can match up against anyone in the West or the East. So it's about shoring up for them. And that's, like you said, it's not the worst weakness to have, especially if you're not taking a chunk of penalties and you just happen to not be the best at it. It's been a big struggle for the Canucks for a long time. So honestly, even hearing that we're 19th is not all that jarring because it's much improved from what it used to be. And we have those kind of penalty kill guys like Teddy Bluger, who and Carson Soucy. So and Soucy's been out most of the year, right? So I think as that penalty kill unit continues to develop chemistry and all that, and perhaps an acquisition on forward as well could help. I think those numbers will go back towards 13th, 14th, 15th, and I'll be more than comfortable with the mid penalty kill when we give up not that many penalties.
So you talk about the bare minimum is making the playoffs. So here we go. We're talking about these numbers. It's way too soon. This number is wild. But in order to guarantee you make the playoffs, you need to win 29 of your remaining 37 games. To guarantee,
sounds really bad.
Right. It sounds horrible, but that's factoring in every other team wins. Right.
Right.
So that's your magic number, right? I can tell you the Buffalo Sabres magic number is a lot larger. They might not even have a winning magic number. In fact, they do not. The Sabres do not control their own destiny, right? That's what that means. You guys just if everybody else is just churning out wins, you guys win 29 games of your 37, which is 78%. Then you're in, right? I think maybe the more interesting number could be the losing magic number. Your losing magic number, it might win despite losing all of your remaining games. You may act like right now, the odds are you guys could lose out and still probably make the playoffs. That's a lot more comforting. Yeah.
That's insane.
I mean, yeah,
they only have 74 points.
It's not likely. But
no.
But I mean, like I said, it's way too early to talk about it. But it's just to comfort you, right? Like you guys, you never know, right? Like you can play. We did the math, right? You guys have 64 points this season. You guys only need 30 more of your next 37 really to talk wild card even. Right. So that's sub 500 hockey. We talked about that. The Sabres can do that. And I'm sure the Canucks can do that. But I mean,
sorry, that got me.
Surprise. There's my transition to the Sabres, unless you had any final thoughts on the Canucks.
Yeah, no, like you said, sarcastically said, low event game. Not too much action since we talked last. We'll see what's coming up here for the Canucks. They got a game in a couple hours against the Leafs, and then they have the Blackhawks on Monday, Blues on Wednesday, and then the Blue Jackets on Saturday. Of those games, the Leafs were on a 4-game losing streak before snapping it against Calgary recently.
Yeah, but Calgary's in fire. They should be in fire sale mode.
I hope so. I'm hoping the Canucks can steal a piece or two.
I'm sure you guys there in Canucks Nation aren't shedding too many tears for the Flames.
Oh no! If there were any tears, they've been evaporated by the
tears
Flames,
of joy.
So. Exactly. I feel bad. Again, I always feel the Canucks. The Flames seem to get a lot of former Canucks, and as we saw with the Zadorov trade, sometimes we take them too. So my pity out to Markstrom and Tanev, but beyond them, I could not give a flying crap about the rest of them. But yeah, of this kind of next span here, the next 4 games, I'd like to see 6 points, maybe even 5 points would be okay. Just like this 500 hockey, honestly, like as long as we can keep pace, I'm gonna be okay. Yeah,
you guys, if you guys just completely fall off and the sticks get cold, right? 500 hockey is all you need, and the Blackhawks, the Blue Jackets are in there. you guys should probably win those, even if you guys are shooting like 4%. So I think at this point, right, you just want to beat the teams you're supposed to beat. And then you guys that should be it. That should be all she wrote for you guys in talking playoffs. Playoff talk's not happening much over here anymore.
No, sir.
We are about oh, yeah, go for it. You got
I was going to say, no, if anything, actually, playoff talks at the highest it's going to be over the next couple of weeks because you guys got some big matchups. Not the Sabres, to be clear, the Bills.
Yes. The Bills play the Chiefs on Sunday. That's tomorrow, 6:30 p.m.
Good game.
Eastern time. It's going to be, or I think it's like 8. It might be 6:30. Either way, it's going to be a fun one. It's going to be fun. We won't turn this into a football pod, but I am looking forward to that one. Go Bills. But yeah, no, playoff talk is not a thing happening, especially after this afternoon's loss on Kids Day, where it was the most snoozer of a game ever, might I add. This game was absolutely putrid. I mean, the total shots on goal were 16 for the Lightning and 27 for Buffalo. We lost 3-1 after allowing 16 shots. Yes.
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't see the score today. You guys lost to giving up 3 goals on 16 shots.
Correct. They scored 2 goals on their first 2 shots and then had an empty netter. Their second goal was a shorthanded breakaway. Yeah, it's fun over here, man. I'm telling you what.
I'm so sorry.
I know we've had comments.
Someone get this man into witness protection. This is just not fair. Like someone just needs to go to the city of Buffalo, build a big blanket, and just put it around poor Buffalo because like they just, oh my God. Damn, good time for the Bills to be in the playoffs because like after the Bills are done, like if something bad happens to the Bills, like hopefully not, touch wood, they'll be fine and win the Super Bowl and shit. But like after the Bills season is over, someone go hug your local Sabres fan. They deserve it.
We really need the Bills to make the season last as long as possible.
Yeah.
Trust me, I got plenty of bad stats for today, but no, they played fine.
Ooh, fun.
Right? Like this game against the Lightning is not one that's like I'm upset about their effort or anything like that. It's just after the way the season's gone and how many games you've lost and how many poor efforts we've watched, it's just one of those that like you don't get the flexibility here for me to be like, that's okay. You played fine. You just lost. Those happen in hockey, right? You don't get that with how they've played. And, I started the pod off about, joking about Don Granato and, he was the favorite of the next coach to be fired, according to Bet Online. And obviously, I think 36 minutes ago, we got the notification that Lambert was out in New York. So, I mean, still, I've said this before. I think Granato is the most deserving head coach to be fired, but most likely, I don't see it happening. I don't know what they're waiting for. I don't know what else they need to see. He made a catastrophic error. He completely butchered the scheme in order to preserve defense. He neutered the offense, and it's just like, why, right? We brought in more talented players. Our younger players are going to grow. You can give a little bit more effort on the back check. Like those are correctable things, but instead you completely got what you did last year, and you just make the thing about last year too is at least they were fun to watch, right? I went into a game, we could be down 3-1 in the third. I'm like, I think the Sabres can still put 5 past this goal, right? Like you felt like the Sabres could score at any moment and just come back against anybody. And it was like gripping and exciting. And they would fly up and down the ice. It was fast. It was, goals galore, right? And people are like, but defense wins championships. I'm like, I'm not asking for a championship. It's been 12 years since we made the playoffs. 12. It's going to be 13 now. Speaking of, I decided to spend my morning with a cup of coffee looking back at the seasons past that we missed the playoffs, right? And the Sabres are going to miss it for likely a 13th consecutive season, longest streak in NHL history, I believe. But I took a look back at the previous 12. I wanted to see how close, right? Over half the league made the playoffs for most of those years. And now at 50% of the league does make the playoffs now. How close were you, right? Like, was it one of those things like, did the puck just not bounce your way here or there? Okay, so we have 12. We've got 12 seasons. That's our baseline here. The Sabres finished within 10 points. 10. That's my starting point, Abby. 10.
10?
Within 10 of the last playoff spot. They did that 4 of 12 times.
Oh my God. You guys are stinky.
Yeah, well, they haven't even been close. Oh, here's the next one. I expanded it to 15 points. Within 15 points of the playoffs. They only did that 6 times. Oh, yeah. And
half the times. Oh, my God. Half the times they've been over 15 points. That's 7.5 wins. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's 7-0-1.
Oh.
With it that close, that's all you need to. Yeah, and by the way, that also those numbers include the lockout season where they had 48 points and the final playoff spot had 55. So there was not enough games for them to completely bottom out. Oh, that was still at the tail end. That was just one season after they had previously missed the playoffs, right? So that was their second consecutive season missing the playoffs. Other than that, they weren't even close for 9 consecutive seasons. There was a 9 consecutive season stretch where the Sabres finished more than 10 points out of the playoffs.
That's absolutely brutal.
And in those 9 seasons, only twice did they finish within 17 or 15 points of the playoffs. Twice of the 9. So they 2 out of the 9. It's crazy, right? And it's just like, what are we doing here? I know Granato got us close, but then he screwed up and the team doesn't play. I hate to be talking about coaching changes because what it's not going to matter to our season, right? We talk about I don't think the Islanders are going to make the playoffs, right? They're 2 points out.
Yeah, they're close.
We're definitely not making the playoffs if we fired Granato now and got a new coach bounce, right? And it's just like, oh my God. Like, I just don't know what they're waiting for. I don't know what else they need to see to say, this isn't it. This isn't working. And I really don't think they're going to fire him mid-season. And I think that's going to be a mistake because if they retain him through next season, oh my God, forget it. No, you want to have a fan base just be completely not even disinterested. They're going to defect. We're going to all become Canucks fans.
Hey, you're welcome in. The water's fine.
Yeah. But it's just like, I really don't know what else they're waiting to see, right? I dug into the stats and they're not that different of a team. But if you look at some other stats to show you like how many chances they're creating, their rush chances, their pace of play, their retrievals, the winning of puck battles, they've regressed. They were like top third of the league and all that stuff last year. They're bottom third this year. The roster didn't get a major overhaul. All of a sudden, Tage Thompson and Dylan Cousins aren't fast. They can't score. Sure, the puck bounces in mysterious ways, but they don't play fast. They're loose with the puck. They turn it over all the time. They can't make a tape-to-tape pass. Are you kidding me?
I think with Tage, at least he has the excuse of that injury, right? But yeah, you're right. When the roster hasn't changed so significantly, to see them playing so significantly worse, the only thing you can blame and you can only blame like shooting percentage or whatever so much. It comes down to the scheme fit of the coach and the scheme changing. And like you said, it's something we actually talk about in one of my. I'm a university student in accounting and HR, and one of our classes, what we talk about is people who succeed in life in general tend to leverage their strengths rather than try to cover for their weaknesses. And that's exactly the opposite of what the Sabres have done. Instead of leveraging the fact that they were, a good high offense team and then make a tweak here, make a tweak there, maybe, work on your defense against breakouts or, maybe change a thing or two here so that, you battle more in the corner or whatever, right? Or do these extra drills in practice to practice blocking shots. They've completely changed the scheme and you've basically eliminated their basic strength. And now when you get rid of your biggest strength and maybe you've helped out your defensive weakness a little bit, now you're just mid because you're not good at anything anymore. It's totally counterproductive of what you're supposed to do. And like you said, it's something you need to fix fast. And even with Don Granato perhaps trying to go back to his old scheme, I see no benefit for them to keep him. It makes sense to move on to a new coach so that he has time to get for the rest of this season to get familiar with how the players and how they fit into his scheme and what he can do to build on that heading into next year. And they can make personnel changes based on how the kind of the tail half of this season would go. So I know, like you said, it's unlikely to happen, but if it were to happen, I think it'd be, you can preach to it for sure. It'd be really good for the Sabres, because that's when you can have your evaluation period, essentially your tryouts for a couple months to see who you want to be a Buffalo Sabre, who wants to be a Buffalo Sabre, and exactly what Buffalo Sabres hockey entails.
Right. And I for years and years and years, I mean, my entire childhood, it's always been centered around a goalie, right? Dominic Hasek, then transitioned into Ryan Miller. Those two guys spent like 25 years just dominating between the pipes for Buffalo. And we never had league leading goal scorers, really. We never had league leading point getters, really. What we had was great goaltending and just depth. And I wouldn't mind seeing that change, to be honest. Last season was the most vibes, the most fun, especially as a guy who goes to half of the home games, right? A season ticket member. Last season, I'm going to reference Dom Luszczyszyn, I think is how you say his name.
Luszczyszyn, yeah.
Yeah. He wrote an article of 16 stats, I think it is, and 15, he's talking about the Buffalo Sabres, right? And this is just a microcosm of changing the scheme to take away your biggest strength, right? The Sabres last season had 12 and a half zone entries that led to a chance per 60 minutes, right? That's the third highest mark in the league, right? So you are the third highest chance team in the league. They gave up a ton at 12.1, which was the fifth most in the league, but they were still in the positive territory, and you're generating 12, right? When the puck bounces in mysterious ways, you want to make as many chances as possible. You don't want to rely on high shooting percentage to get you bailed out. This season, they've cleaned up their chances against at 8.4, right? So a reduction of 3.7 chances against per 60 minutes. But their offense has now dropped to 8.9, which is, I think, 3.6 chances fewer, which is a bottom 5 team now. You went from a top 3 chances, zone entries that lead to a chance, to bottom 5 team that lead. Like, it's just not fun anymore. Like, I get it, right? You need to play defense. You need to play, it's better in your own zone in order to go anywhere in the playoffs. But like I said, I just want to make it there. And when your team isn't constructed to play sound defensive hockey, your team is constructed to run and gun. Hello, Owen Power. Hello, Rasmus Dahlin. Hello, Tage Thompson. Hello, JJ Peterka, Jack Quinn, Dylan Cousins, Alex Stuck.
You name,
Casey Middlestad is the only, Jeff Skinner, right? Casey Middlestad is the only guy that really fits with this new style, and JJ Peterka looks like he does too. But why you just gave Cousins $7 million, you just gave Thompson $7 million, you gave Dahlin $11 million, you gave Power $8 million, and you're going to switch to a scheme that neuters their best asset, which is offensive zone chance. I don't get it. And, we talk about you can only point so many places other than the coach. Nothing screams to me coach ability more than a team's first period goal differential, right? Getting them ready to play on a nightly basis is, ground zero, right? The bare minimum that a coach needs to do, right? You can draw it up on the whiteboard all you want, but it matters about the boys getting ready to play and getting into it early. The Sabres have a minus 22 goal difference in the first period. It improves to a -3 in the second, and even a plus 17 in the third, right? So overall, they're a -9 on the season, but still, it just shows to me this team does not come ready to play, does not lace up their skates with any intensity. They come out, get smacked around for a period, and then they're like, well, shit, that sucked. Let's actually try now, boys, right? And it's like, okay, but at that point, you're digging yourself a hole. Oh, might I add, this team is now 4-19-3 when the opponent scores first.
Ooh.
So
that's not great.
You've got a team that can't dig out of a hole and also doesn't come ready to play in the first and is got a negative 22 goal difference in the first. That's not going to lead to anything except a lottery ticket.
Yeah, I think to put it frankly, they're basically jumping into holes without a ladder. They're jumping into holes and they have no way to dig themselves out or to climb up out of them. That just sounds painful, and it's very interesting to see that opposite effect. It's interesting. It's interesting to see the opposite effect between the first and the third. It's just it reminds me of the old Leafs where they it was always I love what I don't particularly watch Steve Dangle outside. I watch his podcast sometimes because it has some good info, and I always try to go there when the Leafs lose.
Always fun to see.
I see Mr. Angry, Screamy, Yelly Man. But ultimately, something that he would always yell and scream about for the old Leafs was that they just didn't start on time. And I can kind of see that in this team too. And there's a lot of similarities where you have a lot of players with talent. You mentioned a bunch of them: Peterka, Middlestat, Cousins, Thompson. All these guys are high skill players, right? They're not bums. But for whatever reason, they just can't get started on time. And like you said, that squarely falls on the coach, right? Like you have to be able to motivate them to go out there and skate their hardest right off the bat and not mail it in. And then, you're down 1-0, 2-0. And, regardless of the statistics are obviously the statistics. They're horrible after they're giving up the first goal. But even if you forget the statistics, giving up the first goal means you're losing. Just straight up. Forget everything else. You're just losing. You never want to be losing because you want to win. If you're putting yourself in a position where you're losing, you can't just start winning all of a sudden. You have to tie it, and then you can get to winning. But you've basically just already put another step in what's already a hard process. You're facing off against professional athletes. These are not easy people to beat, right? Even the worst professional athlete is going to be, strong, fast, and all this stuff. It's not easy to score goals in the NHL. It's not easy to win checks. It's not easy to, beat a goaltender. All this stuff is hard. And by putting yourself down early, you're just making it that much harder for yourself for no reason. So even the statistics for them speak for themselves. That's atrocious. You give up the first goal and you haven't even gotten 5 wins when you've done that so far in the season. That's horrible.
Yeah, but, and to your point, right? It sounds so simple and so easy when you say, oh, well, if you give up the first goal, you're losing. And, if you give up just one, right? So I know which the Sabres don't do. They give up at least 2 before they start actually thinking about playing. I know a 2-goal lead is the most dangerous lead in hockey unless you're playing the Sabres. But, you give up 1 goal, you need to score 2 just to be winning. You put that together, that you give up the first goal more than you score the first goal. You also need to score 2. And with the new change in scheme, you've completely neutered your offense's ability to come back, right? We talked about they're generating basically 3.5 fewer chances from just entries, right? Per 60, right? Yeah. It's just one stat. Just take that into perspective. You're getting 3 fewer chances per game. And if you're shooting 10%, you just went from 1.2 chances, right? So say every chance is a shot, right? We're assuming. You take a 10% shooting percentage on 12 chances. That's 1.2 goals versus 8 chances. That's less than a goal. And you need 2 of them to come back and start winning. It screams to me that this team, I don't think it's a talent issue, right? There's a lot of different issues across teams in this league, right? Is it talent? Is it coaching? Is it just toxic culture, whatever it is, right? The Sabres, when after the first period, they are leading or the game is tied, they're 18-6-2. So they can do it when they show up and they go toe to toe with the team, or they come out and get that first goal. They can do it. But when they're trailing after a period, they're 2-15-2. 2-15-2. Basically, if you're a Sabres fan and you see that they're trailing at intermission, go to bed. It's over. There's no chance this team is coming back. And I think that, again, leads to motivational factors. If you can't get them believing in themselves that they cannot come back in a game, right? There was a quote. He had a quote a few weeks ago. It was something along the lines of, "Yeah, I wasn't disappointed that we lost. I was disappointed that when I looked down the bench, it looked like they didn't believe that they could do it." It's like, gee, guy whose job it is to get them to believe is shocked his team doesn't believe. We're all looking for who could do that, Donnie, huh? We're all looking for the culprit here. Like, come on, it's brutal, man. And it's just like, I'm sitting here like, they're not going to fire him. They're not going to fire him. We're going to sit here on this podcast weekly, talk about it. They're not going to fire him. They're just straight up not. And honestly, I think he gets next season. I think he's going to get into next season. I'm going to say it right now. It's my spicy take of the day.
All right. Donna, you heard it here first, Sabres fans. One more year of suffering under Johnny Granato. Ryan Rybread has predicted it.
Well, maybe it's not. I don't think he's going to get the full season, but I think he's going to. I think he's going to coach the opener next season. I think he at least makes it that far. Let's be honest. He's not going to get fired after the opener, even if they lost 27-0. I don't think he'd get fired. But
let's see. I wonder. That's a good question. What's the number? Because there has to be a number. What if it was 100-0?
100 goals? I don't
certainly
know.
Like. There's got to be a number where, like, if they're winning the face-off, going in and scoring every 6 seconds, what's the number? Obviously, it would never happen in the NHL, right? That's like some
rookie mode
D tier China team versus like Finland or something, you know?
Yeah.
Like they just go out there and just squash them. But like, what would that number be in the NHL? What level of embarrassment would it take?
I think you'd probably have to get above 15 goals, right? Because we've seen 10, 11, and 12 before. I think 13, 14, it's like getting there, but I think you get 15 plus goals. I think, well, if the Canucks got beaten 15-0 tomorrow night or tonight against the Leafs, right? I don't think Tocchet's getting the axe.
No.
But if a team whose coach's seat is already hot, if you want like to pull the lever, like I think it's double-digit goal. Actually, double-digit goals is probably it for the guy who's already on the hot seat. But I'd say 15, even if the guy's not on the hot seat, unless his job is like bolted down.
Super
he's
secure.
Good. Yeah.
100%. That's interesting. Yeah, I honestly, I think it'd be a little more. I think maybe for the guy on the hot seat for sure. But I think if it's someone, you know, like, let's think of someone who's like not super secure, but someone, you know, who's pretty solid. Like,
Oh, I got this.
Please.
Dave Haxtell, Seattle.
Dave Haxtell. Perfect. That's a perfect example. If Seattle loses 25-0, I think he's gone. But if they lose 16-3,
well, yeah, but I was saying like 15 goal difference, not just 15
difference. Right. Sorry. That's a good clarification. If they lose like 19-2, I can totally see him staying. I think it's when you hit that 20-25 goal mark. I think that's where you see that difference. Because I think, yes, goal differential matters, but I think the actual goals against might matter just as much, because especially whether you're at home or whether you're away, right? If you're away, you're hearing that goal horn over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And if you're at home, you're just seeing your fans get more and more and more demoralized with each goal.
That one's worse. Home is easily worse, but we digress here. We're getting a little off topic. Expansion Nation, we want to hear from you on Twitter. What number goals would your team have to give up for your coach to get fired? And I'm sure Sabres fans are saying 1 right now on Twitter.
It's not even 1. It's like -8. We won 9-1. You're fired, Granato.
And it's just like, well, this was the stretch, just to put a bow on it. This was the stretch that if we were going to start thinking about some heroic desperation playoff push, this was the stretch where you needed to go in the 7 games. You needed probably to win 5 of them. You needed 10, 11 points out of this 14.
Yeah,
they went 3-3 over the last 6. It's not good enough. You beat the Blackhawks, you beat the Sharks, included in that 3-3. So yeah, it's not. There's no pulse. There's nothing impressive here. What is impressive is my ability to screw up blind rankings. So we did this a couple weeks ago, and we had a lot of fun with it. And you guys did seem to enjoy it too. So we are going to do it again, and this time. You know what we're gonna do? You know what, Abby? Do you want to do just overall team, or I was saying about like best offenses?
Ooh. Okay. Yeah. Let's do this. Let's do best offenses.
All right. I got my generator pulled up here. I got my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so I can remember who they were. All right. Are you ready, Abby? And those of you listening around the world.
Sorry, let's give that a couple hours to catch up to all the time zones.
For the millions watching around the world, are you ready for this blind ranking? Here we go. Team number 1, Edmonton Oilers. I'll start. I'm putting 1. They're number 1.
So let me clarify. Are we talking about just generally offensively, or are we talking about goals for this season? Can I get some clarification, please?
Oh yeah, we're not talking. We're not going to talk. Just ranking them based on the number. We're talking about offensive prowess, right? So when you think of a team and their ability to score, right, where do you put them? I'm putting him at number 1. I'm sorry. McDavid's a machine. Dreisaitl's amazing. Hyman's a perfect peanut butter and jelly compliment there. I mean, Evander Kane knows how to score, right? We're not talking defense. We're talking offense. And I think the Oilers have offense. Bouchard even off the back end. And I think the Oilers got to be number 1 for me.
8-point night Sam Gagner also notably there.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay, see, this is a tough one. I really want to go contrarian and just to put him number 2, but you make a really good point. You know, you got the best player in the world over the last 4 games, or the last 11 games. They've averaged 4 goals per game. The lowest of that being a 2-1 victory twice. So basically, of the 9 of the last 11 games, they've scored at least 3 goals. It's hard to argue against McDavid, Draisaitl, Hyman, Nugent Hopkins, Bouchard. I'm trying to think if there's any team I'd even put above them. The Canucks are really good, but yeah, you know what? Let's just try to win this one. Let's go Oilers 1.
Yeah, there's only so many teams, right? I'm looking at their goals for per game, and they're ranked 4th in actual goals for per game. I think as far as scoring prowess, there's not many teams that I would say can go toe to toe with scoring with the Edmonton Oilers.
Mm-hmm.
New York Rangers. Ooh.
Oh shoot! I have to go first too.
Yeah, thank God. There's 2 spots in my head right now. There's only 2 that I can really think of. Like, right?
They are a good goal scoring team, but how low do I want to go with them? I'm gonna put them at 3.
See, I made this mistake last time of overthinking it and thinking, oh, we're going to get somebody better than that. And I'm like, I'm going to put the Rangers at 2. I think their offense is really good. I'm going to play the odds here. We could get the Blackhawks, Capitals, and Sabres as our next 3. I'm going to play the odds and say that there's not going to be many teams that I would say they have a better offense than the New York Rangers right now. I mean, obviously you got Panarin. Zibanejad is just dude, he's so stupid consistent. It's ridiculous. Like that guy just shows up.
Focus on the back end.
Yep. Yeah. There's a lot of offensive firepower on the Rangers. So I'm sticking them at number 2. So we do differ there. Our next team is the Vancouver Canucks.
2 for 2, baby. Put them in 2. I know it's your turn. I don't care.
Yeah, they're obviously going 3 for me. You're probably right. I definitely think you guys have the better offense. It's obviously showing up this way. But I think the Rangers, if we're talking hypothetically on paper and not talking about actual shooting percentage, I think the Rangers are up there. I'm not going to make too strong of a case that they belong above the Canucks, but yeah, no, I think that if I had to redo it, I'd probably put Canucks at 2. You guys are flying high this season. I mean, your third line is amazing. I think maybe there's more individual stars in New York, but when it comes to just rolling offensive firepower, you've got to go with the Canucks.
Yeah, I agree. We definitely have the better team offense, but even individual stars that challenge you, right? We got 2 on the back end. Hughes and Hronek, in their own respects, are good offensive defensemen. I'd even look at Tyler Myers. Like, if we're just talking offense, he has a pretty good point total this year. Offensive stars like Miller, Hughes, Pettersson, Besser, Kuzmenko. If we're talking offense, like if we're playing just forget the defense, right? We're putting Kuzmenko on the power play. We're letting Kuzmenko play no defense. He scored 40 goals last year. Yes, he's not having that good of a year this year, but and then third line, forget that. That's just brilliant.
Yeah.
Basically a point every single game. Set your watch to it, freaking consistent. And then the fourth line, you just have people who chip in, right? Sam Lafferty can move all over the lineup, but when he was in the first line, he was scoring goals. So I would say stars. I'd say maybe they're even. Might even give the edge to the Canucks, quite frankly.
Listen, I'm just trying to defend my mess up here. I'm just trying to grasp at straws here. I mean, you got Panarin, hey, Kreider, Zibanejad, Trocheck, Adam Fox, like we said. Capo Caco is always good for a couple goals, like good goals around the net, right? So I don't know. You're right. It's the Canucks, but let me try and defend my pick here a little bit.
I'm just sinking the knife and I'm just twisting it a little bit. That's all. All
right. Team number 4, the Minnesota Wild.
Oh.
You're first this time, my guy. I know I already put him somewhere, so let's hear it.
They got Kaprizov. They have Kaprizov, Zuccarello. That's always been a good pairing.
They're not doing well this season as a team.
Boldy, Erickson. They got Boldy.
I mean, they got 5 guys with 13 or more goals. Plus, they got Matt Zuccarello back. I don't see. I really don't see how you can roll the dice here and put him at 5 and hope you get a better offensive team than Kaprizov, Boldy. Hartman's got 15. Rossi is starting to blossom. Zuccarello. I don't know.
Okay, let me just do a quick one here. I have where I'm going to put them, but I just want to do this really quickly. We're going to run through this. So, Bruins, Panthers, Lightning, Maple Leafs. Simple, yes.
Yes.
Senators, I would actually think about.
Yeah, their offense has been rolling this year. I don't know if I'd put it above the Wild yet, but I could see the argument.
Honestly, I think I would. With Stützle and Kachuk and these guys.
Giroux,
I think I would.
Still killing it.
Giroux, absolutely. That's
Tarasenko,
5.
Norris.
I would argue the Hurricanes. I would argue the Devils. I wouldn't even argue the Penguins. I know they're not scoring a ton of goals right now, but you have Crosby, Malkin, Letang, Carlson. So that's 8. You go to the Western Conference, assuming we have the Avalanche, the Jets, the Stars. I wouldn't do the Predators.
Arizona,
wouldn't do the Coyotes.
St. Louis.
Golden Knights, Oilers. Oh, we already have Oilers. So Golden Knights. Okay,
Kings
so
is the last team that you could debate, but
I wouldn't do the Kings.
Yeah.
So we have 12. Statistically, I should be putting them at 5.
Okay.
Or at, wait, no, 12. So 12 is better. So, no, sorry. Statistically, I should be putting them at 4.
Yes.
But we ball. I'm putting them at 5. Wild at 5.
Ball is life.
Yeah.
All right. I have them at 4, right? You're putting them at 5. I have them at 4. I think it just, I don't know. I don't want to bet against the chances that we roll one bad team here, I think, are higher than a great team.
Probably.
Oh, fuck.
Please.
Our last team is the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Dang. Dang. Always good. You got, baby.
God. Dude, I didn't. This is a random generator. I did not line this up, but those are 5 just loaded teams offensively. And we just kind of on the fly decided to choose offense. And holy smokes, do we get some of the top offensive teams in the league.
Yeah, I to say the least, I feel quite good about my list. Just to read it out loud for the folks to admire.
If you want to hear the right list, listen to Abby, and then I'll give you mine.
We have the Oilers at 1. We got the Canucks at 2. The Rangers at 3. The Maple Leafs at 4, and the Wild at 5.
One thing I would change there, I would say that Leafs should go 3, Rangers at 4.
I was going to say, if the Leafs hadn't come last, I probably would have liked to put them 3. But, when you hear the Rangers, it's really hard to put them at 4. Funny enough, I actually did debate putting the Rangers at 4. Because I think you were deciding between 2 and 3 when you were talking about the Rangers, yeah?
Yep.
I was deciding between 3 and 4. So I just couldn't put, freaking Zibanejad, Fox, Trocheck, all these guys down at 4. But now I wish I had. It would have been a perfect list. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with this, right?
And, and to close out the episode, here's my totally not Sabres bias list at all. We got Oilers at 1, Rangers at 2, Canucks at 3, the Wild at 4, and down in 5th, we have the Toronto Maple Leafs. As if offense has been their problem over the last couple years. So,
once just again, add a couple more forwards. Pay a couple more forwards, $11 million. That'll solve their problems.
There you go. That's what they need to topple the Wild.
Yeah.
Abby is now 2-0 in these blind rankings of 5 teams. So congratulations, Abby. We invite you guys to once again subscribe or follow the podcast wherever you get your podcast and here on YouTube. Make sure to leave a like if you're listening here on YouTube. Share and give us a 5-star rating if you are listening on our podcasting platform. And thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you in the next one.
Peace.